Hi, my name's James Fowl and this is the Huxley Morton podcast. I hope you're enjoying series 3 so far, and before we jump back in for another episode, I'd love it if you could like, subscribe and hit that notifications button, as it really helps us to increase our reach. We run the show to both help and inspire those working in clinical research, so if there's anyone else that you think would benefit from tuning in, please spread the word. For now though, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Huxley Morton podcast. This week, I am joined by Alethea Wieland, founder and president of Clinical Research Strategies based over in Pittsburgh. Alethea, you and I have spoken before, and I have to say, I was, a little bit shocked when I first jumped on the call for yourself, but in a good way. But look, for our audience, tell us, look, I've given you a quick intro there. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, and what you guys are doing at Clinical Research Strategies.
Absolutely. So thanks so much, James, for having me on your podcast. This is just a wonderful opportunity to talk to you again and to talk to your audience members. So Alethea Wieland, I'm the president and founder of Clinical Research Strategies. We're founded in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania region, and we address a lot of unmet needs for the life sciences sector. Mm-hmm. And we're a boutique contract research organization and an executive management consultancy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And look, I guess, clinical research, clinical trials is at the forefront of everyone's minds at the moment. You can't walk anywhere without hearing about COVID, jabs, vaccines, efficacy rates, etc., etc. Myself, I actually got the Pfizer jab earlier today. So far I am good, no adverse reactions, but if I do drop down, please help. But look, how was it that I guess you got into the industry? So I mean, as a business, you've been going for close to 10 years, right?
Yeah, so I've been in my own consultancy for over 10 years, but in the industry for over 35. So in my mid 50s, and my husband and I founded the company, and together we have over 70 years of expertise, predominantly in quality, regulatory, and clinical operations. So yeah, I accidentally stumbled into it, I put myself through college. It took me 9 years to get an undergraduate degree, and my father had passed away by the time I started college. And so what I really learned was just getting out there and networking. And the only job that was offered to me right around the time I was graduating was in clinical trials.
Wow.
Working for a renowned breast cancer surgeon by the name of Dr. Bernard Fisher. And so that was my entree into clinical research, and I've basically been in it now for over 35 years.
So like so many other people, you get in and then you just can't get out.
That's right.
How was it back then? When you first ventured into it, you probably, again, it's all on the news now. You see it on films. Oh, we're entering this phase of a trial. But how was it when you first stepped into the world of clinical trials? What was kind of going through your mind? Because I think now there's more raised awareness with it. So many people are quite interested. But what were you thinking as an individual where perhaps your peers at the time weren't involved in clinical trials? What was going through your head at the time?
Well, it's amazing because my first job was in regulatory affairs. And so I saw the interchanges of what research sites and sponsor organizations had to do with the federal agencies and with multi-governmental agencies such as Health Canada, US FDA, the EMA, Irish Medicines Board, Australia TGA. So when you first come into that reality is seeing all the regulations that surround the safety and efficacy of, running a life sciences business or bringing to market a pharmaceutical or medical device. And so that I loved it because, I was fascinated with sort of the rules, and I like rules, and but I'm not the crazy regulatory person that has to be fixated on the black and white of regulations. In fact, what we've been able to do is really lean into the gray area and really help defend a particular position with strong rationales and with what we know the regulators are willing to listen to, reasonableness.
So early days, it was the regulatory side of things that you were involved in, and then where did you go from there? Because I was having a look at your profile on LinkedIn earlier on, and it seems that you then started to, I guess, climb the ranks, through the clinical operations world, and then, as you say, 10 years back, decided to cut ties with, I guess, the corporate world, as it may be, and go it alone. So, look, talk us through that transition period. What was, what
Yeah,
that time?
exactly. As a younger person, for a lot of folks who are going to be your audience, you got to start somewhere, right? And if you're lucky enough to have a mentor and someone who can really teach you the ropes, eventually you plateau. Eventually you're no longer challenged and you just look for the next opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a growth opportunity. I was never afraid to kind of do lateral moves. Some were stepping stones more vertically.
Yeah.
But the moment you begin understanding the entire life cycle and kind of learning the lateral moves, you become so much more valuable to companies because you can do a little bit of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I took kind of the route submissions to the FDA or Health Canada. And, that was at the time when we were still in paper doing things on typewriters. I know you
Wow.
weren't even born at that time, but, and so the coming of age with the computers and really the acceleration of research and the acceleration of developing drugs. That's the bad news, is that it still takes forever, 12, 15 years to develop a drug too. And a lot of them don't even make it in phase 3. So most of them fail still.
Yeah.
So what I really was fascinated with was more of being challenged and taking risks and not being afraid to move into a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just like that safety net, that real vertical kind of, I just want to be a project manager or a clinical research associate all of my life. But I was fearless in terms of just, adding new skill sets and new areas of expertise. So I did some startup companies. I was a manager of clinical research at a laboratory developed test, a precision biomarker company working in oncology, worked for a class 3 medical device company, brought a CRO into the United States, was there for 3 years, and then basically repurposed and rebranded my own consultancy firm to be exactly what we wanted to be, to answer the questions and to answer the services, to offer the services that our clients were really asking for.
I just want to rewind a moment there, because one of the things that stood out for me with your description there is that a lot of people, I guess, get comfortable, they sit in a comfort zone, but you were fearless, and that allowed you to kind of step outside that, do some lateral moves, go with some smaller organizations where there's perhaps a little bit more risk, but you clearly chose that decision because you were going to learn something, or you certainly perceived that you would learn something at that time. Where did that fearless mentality come from, is what I was kind of my head.
Excellent question.
Some of us have it, some of us,
that's right.
kind of just fall into a comfort zone. So what is it about you that allowed you to do that? What was making you tick to actually say, I'm going to take this gamble?
Yeah, my head and my heart. When you combine your head and your heart together, and you trust in, and you got to work hard. I mean, you just can't take from people, and you've got to dig in and learn and read and take a great interest and a passion. And I'm not a robot going through my career. I really want to make a difference. And probably more importantly, that the whole aspect of really learning from each other and not being afraid to make a mistake in the workplace and learn from other talent around you. That was what was compelling me forward. So you're right. Some people like a safety zone to be in. But man, I can leverage my network. I've got just great peers and friends who I keep in touch with. And when you build a foundation of trust in your relationships, which is what we're all about, is the fundamental trust, is you get work in spades. You hardly ever have to work for new services and selling. So
you and I talked about that previously, didn't we? I think that, when I started my business, there was so many of my customers that almost just jumped ship and moved over because they wanted to work with, James Fowl rather than, my previous employer. And it was a nice feeling, kind of a bit of a pat on the back. I mean, there was some various restrictions that were around at the time that prevented that sometimes. But that's, it's just a good feeling. As you say, if you've done the right thing consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, that success is going to follow you. And it seems that was perhaps one of the things that maybe allowed you to be a bit fearless and get on with things. But then, look, let's talk about I guess, was there a particular day that you decided, that's it, I'm going it alone, clinical research strategies is going to start? Did you have a discussion with your husband at the time? Was there a particular event, or was it just a culmination of
Oh, it's a culmination. When you get to be the age that we are, you've been around the block, and people use analogies like peeling back the layers of the onion, or drawing back the curtain to see the puppet behind, like the Wizard of Oz, the great Oz behind the curtain, and who's pulling the strings is actually just a person, right? And it's elements everywhere in life, is in our political climate, in industry, and in the type of work that you do. The type of work that I do is, you can't buy it. I wanted to buy something that I could believe in. And, it's really that simple. It's that simple, is being a part of something that's good, that you don't have to sacrifice your values for, that if you live with values and principles, actions actually speak louder than words. So, that's the key element, is that I don't have to make any sacrifices for anyone. I don't have a bureaucracy to work in. I don't have internal political environment to favor this person over that person. It's let somebody else do that. Let somebody else dive their career into that. And so there's great autonomy in having your own business, putting your own credit and your own money into it, and allowing it to flourish and allowing it to grow, because you have the right recipe for success, right?
Yeah, and I can second that. And just, it is that betting on yourself feeling, isn't it?
That's right.
When you bet on yourself and win, there's nothing quite like it. And I guess I share your opinion on, you kind of want to get away from some of the BS that exists in certain companies that you feel as an individual, as a top performer, sometimes hold you back. And sometimes the only way to create a business and working in a business that is run your way is to create it yourself. And clearly that's what you went ahead and done.
Absolutely. I mean, it was just a perfect conclusion to a couple of the last jobs that I had held, and it was just so obvious to me that there's a couple principles in our life. It's trust, it's values, it's principle, it's having those principles, and never fearing. We don't fear people, we don't fear decisions, we don't fear, but probably more importantly, teaching my staff and teaching my consultants that they don't have to fear either.
Yeah.
And that it's an open dialogue and very inclusive, and all ideas are welcome. And we all the creativity bubbles to the top. And so that's really what I wanted to live in. As I look at the last phase of my career, I want to turn over those skill sets and those values to the next generation to become leaders in the life sciences space.
Sounds good, and I like your values there. So look, how 10 years on, I'm guessing, was it just yourself and your husband when you started?
We were solo kind of consultants. In 2018, I rebranded. Today we're 23 people strong. We are taking in startup work, mid-sized life science company work. And in the past year, we've actually penetrated the top 50 life science companies. We're talking the biggest pharmaceutical and medical device groups. And we do really interesting, fascinating work. So
I was just
Yeah.
about to say, and look, you've covered that there. I was going to ask, it was yourself and your husband to start with. How many people? A snapshot of, I guess, how things are going. So there's 23 of you guys now, and
We have full-time staff, and then
going well.
we're doing very well. So from 2018 to be sort of 2 or 3 people, and then in the course of I don't know 2 or 3 years, we so we were the solopreneurs in 2011. I left a different organization in 2018, and then we just refocused. And wouldn't you believe it, James, COVID didn't really impact us. We did have some projects completely stopped dead in their tracks because they were pharmaceutical companies for which their supply chain completely was destroyed, and so they laid off staff. So those projects stopped. But boy, did we have a ramp up, and I couldn't be more proud of the fact that we could pivot. Just like you have pivoted your organization and really, find new opportunities by providing new services, basically.
Yeah. So what is it? Has there been I guess, a refocus on the type of therapeutic areas that you focused on, type of clients? Because it sounds as though you're picking up new studies, new clients. Well, has it been in different areas?
Very many different areas, and that's the beautiful thing. So we are basically regulatory scientists by training and by nature. So what that means is that we follow the regulations. We follow when a piece of legislation hits, like GDPR, EU MDR. The FDA and Congress actually passed the 21st Century Cures Act in the United States in 2017. And so when you pay attention to the regulations, you see where the work is heading, right? And so by embracing the regulations, we are winning GDPR work, we're winning EU MDR work, and we're winning some fascinating work with the US FDA for our clients, where we are taking novel products that they've never seen before, software as a medical device, Internet of Things, federated medicine, new biologics, for instance, even a cannabis product that the FDA has never seen before.
Yeah.
And we're doing the hard lift of the conversation with the agencies so that, it's very strategic and very tactical. And so when you have that as a foundation, regulatory science, and you put the right fit for purpose team together, there's the sky's the limit, and that's what we do. We put together a fit for purpose team for what a client needs us to do.
Nice work. And look, are you guys, I guess that different states have different regulations at the moment. Some are lifting masks, some have not bothered with masks. But how is it going for you guys with your staff? Are you working remotely? Is it a hybrid model? How are you managing that? And what other challenges have you faced, I guess, personally and as a business over the past sort of couple of years?
When COVID was hitting, I decided to actually get an office because some of our work that we were being awarded required an office setting. And so I did what the opposite was a lot of people. I actually secured a lease for a couple of years.
Did you get a better rate then? Because
I did. I knew
that. You were like, observe the masses, do the opposite.
That's exactly right. And so when people want, so it was obviously a business decision, but the team certainly works most of the time from their home office. We do have needs to be in the office, sometimes together. Yeah. COVID really hasn't affected us. We're managing just fine.
Amazing. Well, I think that's just another example of, again, sometimes going against the grain, being a bit fearless. And as I said, look, observe the masses, do the opposite. Because I mean, did you get any backlash from friends or colleagues at the time saying, why are you getting an office when everyone is being forced to work remotely and things?
They actually asked me, wow, this is a funny time to get an office, Alethea. Yeah. And so once I explained it, I was like, I made such a sweet deal on the lease, and because these building owners and management companies, they need the money.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. Look, I love that. I've not heard of anyone else who actually has sort of that mentality. There's a lot of working and research can be done remotely unless you're allowed.
Absolutely.
It can be. So many people have been championing the remote work, and we've been used to it as a business for years anyway, so it was no major impact to us. If anything, it just outlined where we could outperform a lot of our competitors. But yeah, to go the other way, I didn't know that you had done that, but no, impressive stuff.
Thank you.
And look, I guess, other challenges, aside from the obvious logistical side of things, office from remote work, was there anything, I guess, personal that you've faced over the past 18 months? Any challenges on that side of things of, I mean, clearly business has been going well, but sometimes that throws up its own weird and wonderful challenges, which sometimes good problems to have, but, often that can impact on personal issues. So, I mean, has there been?
Oh, you're so right. I mean, life goes on, right? You don't necessarily see your family when they're sick, when they're well.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I lost my mother to breast cancer. I lost my husband's brother passed away, and then I lost a sister tragically. And despite those very earth-shattering, devastating losses, you just try to find a way to remain positive. And I can see COVID has dramatically affected the mental health of so many people. And I just wouldn't let it get me. And while I was able to take necessary time to reflect on the losses of my family members, you still have to find the silver lining in life. You still have to find the will to move on and be a positive influence, and not be afraid to cry in front of your team, and the humanness side of that. And people relate to that level of honesty.
Yeah, just authenticity, and actually just being yourself in any walk of life, whether it's, with family, whether it is on LinkedIn, whether it is in the business world. People just like that, because let's face it, we all just like to do business and work with people that we like, know, trust. And
That's right.
When people are open with you, that's all you bloody care about, really. Sometimes, I've had it where people have been selling me stuff, and sometimes the best products, the individual, I'm just like, I just could not work with that person. Where I'm just like, no, look, I want to go with this person just because he seems like he's a good laugh. I'll take that all day long.
Well, that's just exactly right. Is you want to be relatable, but also feel very comfortable taking somebody out to the pub. Those are the types of relationships that I want to build with my clients, with my colleagues, is that somebody who you can just let your hair down and speak freely, and not have to be political and worry about if you're going to get fired the next day or something like that. Is it's just, and people know who the good people are and the bad people.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Well, look, it sounds like you've had a tremendous and amazing journey over the past couple of years. All sorts.
I'm so lucky. I am so lucky.
Look, what's next for yourself and for clinical research strategy? What are your thoughts as we head on through the year and into 2022? What's next for you guys?
Great question again. So due to where we are in our careers, and having worked for a lot of startup companies before, who kind of sell you on, you'll get some stock options, and once we sell or have a strategic acquisition, you'll make it. And like that never happened. And so, David and I got our minds together and was like, let's grow this thing to sell it to a strategic. And so, believe it or not, we are laying the foundation from a fiscal discipline perspective to prepping for due diligence, but we're growing this business. And more importantly, I'm showing my staff and my colleagues that they're my priority. And so when you kind of prime the market and you get out there, you get your strategics lined up and you begin those dialogues, my team is just as important to have that visibility. They're not going to have the rug pulled out from under them, but they get a front row seat, because I want my people to be the next generation of entrepreneurs, to see how it can be done. And I can't wait for them to make me an offer for me to come work for them. right?
Love that. I mean,
Right.
again,
So that's
that transparency side of things, isn't it?
it is. I want to grow the next entrepreneurs because we don't have enough really great leaders in life sciences. We have a lot of political bent. We have people who capitulate to bad business, and so I want to teach them that it's great to be good, that it's great to be effective.
Yeah.
And how you go about doing that is not to be the narcissist or the psychopath or the sociopath. It's to be the fair and balanced leader. So I'm teaching them all leadership skills now too.
Love that. And look, as I say, look, I love the fact that you're open about it as well. My business partner Lucy and I, we're very clear with our mission statement as a business. We share that with people that come on, so that anyone that joins us, knows where the company is going, what our values are. And it comes back to, that way you're working with a team that all kind of share those, same values and mission. Everyone's, working towards the same goal. And you end up getting people that, excel at it and, are going to be kind of entrepreneurs and they go on to do their own thing. Fantastic. I'm all for that. There's enough business out there for everyone to succeed.
There is.
Need to be greedy and these kind of dictatorial boss type.
Authoritarian people who are just telling you what to do, and it's
not needed.
It's like
So look, sounds incredible, Alethea. I'm certainly looking forward to how the journey goes. I'll be I guess tuning in and watching how that develops. But look, we've kind of reached a new feature in the podcast series for us, which is a quick fire round. So I've got a few questions for you. Love to get your, I guess, short, and concise answers to share with our audience. So look, I'll kick us off. The first one is, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self, or the number one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
This might sound strange, but I would actually have preferred to study multiple languages, and just I am only speaking and writing in English, and I feel that a true deficit of mine is not to have a second or a third language. And I would recommend everybody in the life sciences sector to know at least a second or third language if possible. Europeans are great. They're masters at languages. But I feel like a lot of Americans disable themselves by doing that. That would be mine.
Yeah, I guess, the Europeans are great at that. Yeah. Us British, however, like you guys in the States, pretty terrible. It's sometimes embarrassing. But let's move on. Question number 2. What are the top 3 qualities that you value most when building your own teams at Clinical Research Strategies?
Yeah, it's character. I'll take character over skill set any day, and attitude. And then the third I would actually say is coping, because the industry is so volatile. You can't get upset with things. You have to, stop yourself from overreacting or reacting from the crappy things that go wrong, because they happen all day long. And so that over the top reactivity is not something that I want. So again, it's the character, the attitude, and then a person's ability to cope.
Fantastic. Look, again, I think all 3 of those are fantastic qualities to look for in a team, because I guess, look, the strength of your people is the strength of your business. So you need all of those things, I think. Look, moving on to the third question, and that is, what is the number 1 book or resource that you would recommend for our audience? Particularly in the clinical research field, I guess.
Yeah, and I kind of want to, so I'm always challenged to kind of come up with one book, because I'm an avid reader. I love to read. And I kind of, if you're to learn anything in clinical research, I want to kind of go more philosophical than anything else. And it's in any industry. And I'm not a popularist when it comes to getting the latest that everybody else is reading. However, Adam Grant recently released a book, Think Again. And I feel that in the political climate that we're in, and the faultiness of like narcissistic leaders and people who are afraid to hear the emperor's not wearing any clothes kind of thing, is allowing that level of humility to understand making better decisions. So think again, quick read by Adam Grant. He's famous for writing these types of books, applicable from a philosophical perspective across any industry, but one that I make sure that there is in my business, open dialogue. No one can be, there's no fear, there's no retaliation, that type of thing.
Like it. I like it. Well, look, guys, you heard it here first from Alethea. Go check that book out. And look, aside from you mentioned you're an avid reader there, but my next question is, what is your favorite thing outside of work?
Doing it, gardening, exercising, riding a bike, going to the park, being outdoors. I would say that.
Keeping active then, yeah?
That's right. Yep.
Great stuff. And look, finally, before we wrap up and close off this episode, what is your number one golden rule in life and in business?
Trust, straightforwardness, no obfuscation.
Love it.
It's really important.
Short, effective, and kind of, yeah, just backs up and mirrors everything that you said from start to finish here.
That's right.
Alethea. So no, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. As I say, look, I'm excited to see where things go for you guys at Clinical Research Strategies over the next year, and how you continue to grow, the more studies you take on. But look, for any of our audience, whether they're researchers, potential customers for yourself, investors, whoever it might be, what is the best way to reach out to you?
They can certainly connect with me in LinkedIn. So it's just my name, Alethea Wieland. My website is clinicalresearchstrategies.com, and there's a contact form, and anyone can have a free consultation with me at any time that you can schedule it on my website. I'd be delighted to entertain any types of questions.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Alethea, thanks very much for jumping on the Huxley Morton podcast with us today. It's been a pleasure having you, and look, do keep in touch.
I look forward to keeping in touch with you, James. Take good care. Thank you.
Yeah.